Okay, so this is gonna be a demonstration video on how to get started with tracing your logo designs from the initial sketches that you were working on. So at this point now, if you go on to Classroom, you just go on to your Classroom. I did scan in and uploaded everybody's logos that they did. So you go on to Classroom. You just have to go to Classwork, go under the resource tab, and you're just gonna look for company logo design. So if you click on view materials, or well, when you actually upload, or when you go on it, your photo of everybody's logo should be on there. You have like your first name and then the initial for like your last name. I haven't actually got a chance to upload the photos yet, but it will be located in the section though. But you're just gonna click on your logo, download the image. So once you've downloaded the image, it's pretty easy. Just gonna like click on the. Just use this as an example. So you can click on here, click on open a new window, and you just want to make sure to download your file. So just make sure to find like your specific logo, and it should show up in your downloads folder. So just make sure to download the your sketches, your drawings. I'm actually going to use my own drawings for this. So once you've located the drawings, though, you're going to just click that and drag that into Illustrator. So now you have like your images on here. So I'm actually going to resize this a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to drag it to the side here. So you want to first set up your workspace. So I'm just going to close some of these things. I'll probably have to open it up later again, but you want to find your layers panel again. If you don't have this layers pop up, you go to Windows, Layers, and it should pop up. So just retitle this your sketches. So just so you know what it is, it's your sketches. And you want to actually lock this layer in. So you're gonna lock this layer, and then you're gonna create a new layer on top. Or you can just title this one. You can title it logo. So basically everything that you do though is going to be on the logo layer. It's not going to be on this layer here. And the reason why we do this is because we can't click or move this around because part of it what we're going to do is we're going to have to trace the drawing that we're doing. All right, but just make sure to click on the logo layer, and we're going to zoom in closely on the logo. Use the hand tool, move around. And we're basically just going to do a tracing of the logo. So, I want you guys to just make sure you use the pen tool, and you're going to do a tracing of the logo. So, I would just make sure to set up your outline. So, if you may need to flip this over, and just make sure your fill is on none. Move this up. Yeah, your fill should be on none, and this should be the color black. But obviously, we're going to change these colors later. So, so I'm just going to just trace the this picture of the bun. So just remember to use the pen tool. So again, I'm using the pencil, and just make sure to just trace and try to create as few points as you can to do your drawing. So I only use about like 3 points to create these image of the bun. All right, now the way we're going to be tracing these logos though is I actually don't want you guys to just do like a black outline of the logo. After we're done tracing each of those shapes or each part, if you want to add like a black outline to your drawings, you can. But with these logos though, I want you to like kind of see how they look without having the black outline in the drawing, because sometimes when you have those black outlines, it makes it look more like a drawing and not really like a logo in a way. So we're just gonna play around with that though. But after you trace the one of the shapes, and my suggestion though when you're tracing shapes is just trace trace it into shape. So basically, when I say a shape, basically I'm gonna deselect this. So if I'm gonna trace like this leaf here, I'm just gonna trace the shape by itself. So I'm gonna trace around here, around there, and I might actually wrap around here though. But when I'm seeing a shape though, it's gonna be from one line though, it's gonna wrap around back to the other line. Okay, so you want to make sure to create this is called an enclosed shape. So you have like lines here. So you're not just tracing the lines, but you're creating separate shapes for it. Okay, so you want to make sure to create separate shapes for each of those areas. So for example, when we start to color or create your logo, we're going to go to Windows, go to swatches, and just make sure to change your swatches to, you want to click on this, it's on the bottom left, it looks like a library, it says swatch libraries, and click on defaults, or highlight down default swatches and go to print. So this is going to give you, a bunch of default colors to use. But what you can do is you can actually click on these shapes here, and if you click on the colors, it's going to change the colors, but you can also like flip this around too. So you can hit the flipper, or you can hit Shift X to change the colors. Okay, so I want you to try to like make them into shapes first, because remember, the logos are like more of like simplified shapes. So later on though, if you wanted to though, you can always go back to the where you have your colors, and if you wanted to, you could actually put a black outline. So if I clicked on this stroke here, made it black, you can actually add a black outline later to it. But try to see how the logo will look without the black outlines. And the same thing with this shape here. You're going to just change it into a color. So you just change it in that color, and then you can flip it. You can also hit Shift X too to flip the colors too. All right. But basically, you're just gonna be just tracing these shapes. So, again, my suggestion though is when you're tracing the shapes, just make sure to have it on the outline. And sometimes when you have it on the fill already, it's kind of hard to see like some parts that you're tracing. So I mean, this part isn't really that hard, but there'll be like some parts where the fill will overlap, and you want to trace it all the way around. So I'm going from one shape to the other, and I'm actually going to use like a different shade of green for this one. Whoops, Command Z. So I'm going to flip it back to the outline, change the color, and Shift X to change it to. Okay, basically you want to try to break it down to shapes when you're coloring. So one other thing you're gonna do too is like you see how like this line is overlapping, or the bun's overlapping the this piece of cheese that I have here. So there's actually a way where you can actually move shapes behind or in front of other shapes. So for example, this is gonna be like my keeps doing that. So okay, so I'm just gonna make sure to flip it first, change it to yellow, flip it to the yellow. So this is gonna be like where my cheese is. So if I actually want to move the shape behind the bun, there is a way we can do that in Illustrator. So if you there's two ways. You can either hold Command, and then you can use the one of the bracket keys. So I'm gonna be the hotkeys for the bracket keys, but you can move things behind or in front of certain things. Or another way you can do too is if you right click on the shape, it can arrange and send it back. So this is basically what I'm doing. Is this the Command key? I'm using one of the bracket keys. You also do Command Shift and this bracket key to move it to the very back. So you can actually move like different shapes on the back. So that way you don't have to trace it perfectly on those lines. You can actually overlap the shapes a little bit. So I'm just going to continue tracing these shapes. And again, I'm just doing shapes one by one. And again, what we can do is we can actually move the same shape behind everything. So I'm actually going to, and if you want to change like the fill too, you can actually click on the fill. So whatever is in the front though, that's what the color is going to change. So if I click on this in the front, you can see the strokes in the front. This is going to change the outline of my stroke. All right, so I'm actually going to do Command Z for that. But if I click on the fill here, and this box is in the front, this is going to change the fill for it. Okay, so I'm just gonna fill it in, just because that's gonna be where my burger is. And I'm gonna do Command Shift and then the back colon. Okay, but basically you're just gonna be tracing those shapes, and you're just gonna need to just keep working on it. And my suggestion is just to trace the shapes. As I think the logos look a little bit cleaner when you have more of those shapes being used. And again, always do connect your shapes from one side to the other. I can use the same green. So you want to make sure I have the matching green colors. And then so I'll show you the other way of doing it. So you can also right click, arrange, send it back. All right. So that's basically how you want to like start arranging it. But you just want to keep on working on the logo. So if I were to move like the whole logo on this side, this is kind of like what I have so far with it. So that looks like a pretty nice logo though. But after you're done with it though, it should look kind of like this when you're finished. Um, so I spent a little bit more time on it, and I actually added the words to it. So it'll look like this when you're finished. And then later on, what we can do is we can click on these shapes, add gradients to it later to make it look a little bit more special, a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'll explain the gradients a little bit later, but you just want to just like trace the shapes for now. And then if you feel like the shapes don't look that great, you can always add outlines to these shapes that you did. So you can make it look like a drawing too. I feel like it has more of like the logo look if you keep it kind of like just with shapes though.